All right, in this video, we're going to talk about how to create an amazing client experience and deliver maximum value to your clients. There's several things that we're going to go over that when you put them together and work through them consistently, you will find that not only are your clients happier, that they get more value from your products and services, your experience, the engagement that you have with them, but you actually end up getting a lot more business because those clients want to work longer with you. They want your help in additional areas, and they also will refer more business to you. All right, so let's dive into it. So the first thing that's really important to deliver the best client experience and overall results for your clients is setting of very clear expectations. This is where a lot of consultants find that they don't do at the beginning of an engagement of a project, and then they start to see the negative side effects of not setting expectations up front later on in the project. And that can show up as scope creep. That can show up as all of a sudden, your client is not happy with the result of the engagement. They're not happy with the lack of communication or the requests or number of requests that you have. So get very clear at the beginning of every engagement. What are the expectations? What do you expect from the client? What do you need from them, right, in order to make sure that the project will be successful? And at the same time, what should they expect from you? What can they expect from you? Are you going to respond within a certain amount of time? Are there certain documents that you need from them? Will you need access to certain, key people inside of their organization? Will you need access to some software, technology, platforms? Whatever it is, right? Setting those expectations around all aspects of the project, from how you engage with the client to how you communicate with them to the timeline, the people that are involved, all of that should be reviewed upfront with the client, because that will create a very firm ground for you to build success upon. Now, the next area that you want to pay attention to is setting of objectives and metrics, right? This goes kind of beyond the setting of expectations. Expectations are one part, and you could say that objectives, metrics are also part of expectations, but I'm breaking these out because when you talk about setting of objectives and metrics, this is really about what does success look like? And are you and the client defining success in the same way? If you believe that success is, achieving, let's say, target A, but your client believes that it's actually target B or C, then even though you do an amazing job of delivering A, which you might feel, you and your team might feel really great about, if the client actually wanted a variation of that, they wanted B or they wanted C, then you might be excited, but they're not, right? And so that's misalignment. If you're not clear on what are the objectives for success, what are the metrics that we're going to use to ensure that we are making the progress that we want, and ultimately we're going to reach that destination, reach that goal together, and we can celebrate that together. If you don't have that, right, it's very hard to deliver value to your clients, because the value that you see in your eyes may not be the same value that the client has in their eyes, right, or on their mind. And so get very clear at the beginning of every engagement, what are the objectives that you are going to use to measure success, right? What are those metrics? And then make sure that you are checking in on those constantly, consistently throughout the project. You're not just waiting until the end, or not just waiting until halfway through the project. These, depending on the length of the project, you might be having multiple checkpoints. It might be a monthly checkpoint, it might even be some, weekly checkpoint where you're making sure you're gathering feedback through surveys or in-person feedback, a conversation or other sources, but you're using all that to really ensure that you are making progress towards the goal and you are aligned on what value really looks like. All right, next, in order for you to really deliver the highest and greatest level of value to your client and all clients in general, it's important that you understand the client's situation, that you understand their industry, that you understand the environment that they are dealing in. And this can show up in many different ways, or the importance of this, I should say, can show up in many different ways. But imagine that you're going in to work with your client and you're not really paying attention to what's going on inside of their industry, or the economic environment, or the competitive environment, or maybe there's new laws, new regulations. And so you come in and you're just talking about the project and you're pushing forward. But if you don't know what's going on, you may not recognize that they are very distracted right now, that they're very fearful right now. They're just very busy with a lot of other things that aren't directly related to your project. And so if you're not conscious of that, if you're not aware of that, then not only can that actually derail the project, but it can show the client that you really don't understand what they're dealing with or what's kind of going on inside of the environment, the industry, and so forth. So for you to level up, for you to provide even greater value to your clients, having a pulse and really understanding what's happening in their specific market, what's happening right in the industry, what's happening in the broader economy, right? What's new, what's coming up. The more that you understand what they're going through and what's kind of surrounding them, and even if you can take it a level higher, if you can understand things and know about things that they don't even know about, then you become that trusted advisor, right? You become the guide that can help them to avoid the pitfalls, right? To say, hey, don't step there because that's a trap, or you're going to probably want to turn right here instead of turning left because of this reason. So again, the more that you understand your client's situation, the industry, what they're going through, what they might have to think about, these are things that create massive value for your client. And if you're unaware of them, right, that actually takes away from potential value and can really put you in a position where, again, the goal that you're working towards starts to veer away from what your ideal client, or what I should say, what your current client, if you're working with them, right, what they're thinking about right now. All right, next we're going to talk about data and analysis. It's very easy, and I'd say quite common, for consultants to go off of gut feeling, right? You have a lot of years of experience working in a specific industry or a certain type of organization. You are just doing the same work that you've always done with your clients. And so when you go into a situation with a client, right, or start an engagement, you might feel that you already know what you need to do. The problem with that is that in some cases, what used to work may not work anymore. Or what looks like the same thing that you dealt with with a previous client, the actual root cause of that is not the same with the current client that you're working with. And so this is why savvy, experienced consultants, successful consultants understand the importance of not only going off of gut feeling and not just, kind of taking what they hear or what they see at face value. They always want to, and always do, make sure that they're collecting data and ideas and insights from multiple sources. And so you want to gather data. You want to analyze that data. And even though your hypothesis, you might be very sure that you know what the problem is, before you say, hey, let's go and spend a bunch of money to your client and fix that problem, you've started the engagement, and it might be, that they have to bring on this new technology to fix some things, and that's a $500,000 investment. Before you just say, hey, let's go and do that, you want to make sure that that's actually what you should do, right? You want to be certain, and you want to have the proof so that you can show that to the client. So the client feels more confident to actually take that step forward, make that investment. But also, you really want to avoid the position, or the situation, I should say, where you guide the client to do something and it turns out that's actually not what they should have done, right? Not only have they made a big investment potentially, they've wasted time, they've wasted energy, and they've lost trust in you. So finding ways to always gather that data, review, analyze it, be able to look and to ensure that the hypothesis or beliefs that you have and the experience that you have in the past lines up with the current situation is incredibly important. And when you do that, you create and are able to deliver greater value for your clients. All right, where do most consulting projects fall off? And it's not during the actual engagement or work. It's what happens after. There's countless experiences that companies have had. And this is partly where kind of consultant can get a bad name or a bad rap, if you will. And that is the consultant comes in, or the firm comes in, they do the work, it's stellar, right? Everyone's happy initially, and then it falls off. And it falls off usually because the ideas, the reports, the guidance, the advice wasn't implemented. And you hear this a lot from organizations who talk, negatively at times about larger consulting firms, because these firms in many cases will provide, outstanding advice and reports and analysis and all that. But then the implementation is left to the company themselves. If they can't implement successfully what they're learning or taking the strategy, the advice and all that, then all of that initial work really didn't create any value. And so for you as a consultant and a consulting business founder, there's a massive opportunity to ensure that you're not only providing strategic guidance and plans and discussions and analysis, but think about what can you do, and it may not be that you yourself or your own company, maybe it's you partner with somebody else, but how can you level up, or how can you ensure that your client is going to actually implement successfully, and that implementation is not going to fall off in a few months from now. So the more value, the more certainty, the further that you can help your client to actually achieve the ultimate result that they want. So not only to find out what the problem is, but to help them to think about, okay, well, how do we now implement to solve that problem? And then how do we make sure that it doesn't come up again? That's where you can create a lot of value for your clients. So think about, where are the typical gaps? Where do your clients usually fall off? What are the dangers for them even after you're initially involved? And think about, how can you plug those holes, right? How can you add more value for your clients in those areas? Because therefore, right, it will create more value for your clients. And remember what we said, right, earlier on, what I mentioned is that this is not only about the initial value, right, but when you do this, what happens is your clients are happier. They stay longer with you, right? They want to bring you into to do more work with them. They'll introduce you, if they're a larger organization, into different departments inside of the organization. So you're selling deeper into the organization. But then you also get a lot more referral business because they're going to be talking about you and how much value you bring to them when they're meeting people and talking to their friends and colleagues, events, and so on and so forth. And then the final one that I'll mention in this video is feedback loops and future planning. So another area where you can create a lot of value for your consulting clients is to make sure that you're either helping your client to set up, or that you talk about how can you continue to get feedback, right, from the client. And so more tangibly, you go in, let's say you do a project, it's 6 months long. Now, if that's it, you're in and you're out, you may have delivered great value in the 6 months. The client might be, kind of smiling ear to ear. They're grinning, they're happy. But if the impact or the effect of that work that you've done starts to drop off, when they get to month 8, 9, 10 from the point when the project started, then the value isn't as great over time. And so the opportunity, again, similar to implementation, becomes how can you create those feedback loops with your client so that when they're, at month 6, they're happy, but when they're at month 10, month 12, month 18, they're still getting value. And as you create these feedback loops, it also provides the opportunity for you to continue working with this client, not necessarily the whole way through, but at different times you're able to be brought back to do additional workshops or coaching or training sessions, or to help them with some other areas, or to review or to optimize. There's many ways, right, that you can structure these kind of agreements. We do this all the time with our clients in our Clarity Coaching program, where we help them to adjust their models where they can deliver greater value longer term for their clients, and therefore increase their revenue, their profits significantly by making these adjustments. And then the kind of final note on this is not only is the feedback loops, but it's that future planning, right? So by thinking with your client about, well, what does the future look like, and helping your clients to kind of prepare and see around the corners before they get there, you have that unique insight. You're not only working with one company, you have multiple clients. And so you generally, as a consultant, that expert, you have some very interesting kind of perspectives and the ability to see more things in many cases, right? More potential dangers, more potential opportunities than your client does, because your client is so focused on their business, right? And their organization and their career and their role, right? And their team. But you can see broader generally, and therefore you can help them to plan for the future. That again creates massive value for your client, even in an initial conversation around that topic. But if you then turn that from a conversation into planning, into an engagement, then it becomes, again, longer term value for your client, and also longer term value for you as a consultant, because that creates additional work for you. So there you have it, multiple ways to help you, to help your clients to deliver, create, therefore receive for your clients maximum value. And if you want more guidance around this topic, if you want to dive deeper into additional ways to create value inside of your consulting business, how to attract more consulting clients, how to structure your consulting business model and your offers and your pricing strategy, just head on over to consultingsuccess.com, or just click on the link below this video here to access all of that, because we have a lot more of that for you on the website.